Sabrina Bennet. I do 4th and 5th grade social studies at Jenkins Elementary in Jenkins, Kentucky. Our project was a 5th grade project. Our students worked on a place-based learning project that focused on their hometown of Jenkins, Kentucky. A place-based learning allows students to take a deep dive into their local history in hopes of discovering a deeper connection into their own past, their community, and their relation to the rest of the world. Our guided questions, which was what we framed our project around, the focus of our learning was, how did immigration affect the town of Jenkins? Our 3 main questions were, who were the people of Jenkins? Where did they come from and why? And what cultural aspects from their home countries became a part of Jenkins, and do we still see some evidence of those aspects now? Our problems of practice, which is the reason why we wanted to go through with this project, were to focus on 3 key problems: the lack of interest in history and student engagement, lack of community and family involvement in their education, and a lack of pride in self and community. The reasons why we chose those 3 problems to focus on were they're pretty evident in our classroom. Those are the 3 main problems that I saw in my social studies classroom on a daily basis. The first being a lack of history, or lack of interest in history, sorry. 5th grade students, they're 10 and 11 years old. They have a hard time seeing a connection to themselves and the rest of the world. Beyond their community, historical events, the U.S. history, which is what 5th grade focuses on, it could just as well be a made-up story. They just want the answers. They want to know what they need to know for a test. They don't have a real-world connection. A place-based learning project allows them to have a connection to the history of what they're learning, to their own history. Our second problem was a lack of parent and community involvement. Our community is a low-income area. Many of our students are being raised by grandparents. They have a lot of stressors added in their life that being involved in the classroom and in education kind of falls to the bottom of their to-do list, which is understandable, but we do have a lack of engagement as much as we would hope for anyway. And our last problem of practice was the pride in self and community. I've been at Jenkins for 2 years. I'm not from Jenkins, but a phrase that I've heard many times is, it's just Jenkins, as in it's not anything. It's nothing to be proud of. And I hear that from 10-year-olds, which is disturbing. For one, they're not proud of themselves. They don't see their self-worth or the worth of their community. So I was hoping this project would allow them to see the greatness of Jenkins and maybe give them a drive to want to continue to make Jenkins a great place to live again. Through our innovation grant, we were able to order some resources that would help us do our research for Jenkins history. We ordered an iPad with a tripod, which allowed us to take videos and photos, recordings of classroom activities, interviews with local history experts. We had a 3D camera, which allowed us to capture images of key locations of Jenkins. For our end product, which was supposed to be a virtual tour, we are hopeful that we will still continue to finish that. We ordered a large classroom map that allowed students to map out the countries of origin from immigrants. And we also had a Hue animation equipment, which is kind of like a document camera, but it comes with animation software. So students were able to reenact what Jenkins was long ago, what it is now, and to brainstorm what a potential future for Jenkins may look like. Our project started at the very beginning of Jenkins with students researching the founding of Jenkins. We first learned who and when and who founded the city of Jenkins in 1912. From learning the when and who, we began to brainstorm reasons why. They split into groups, came together for discussion, and quickly realized the reason behind the founding was our rich natural resources in the area. Through group and whole class discussion, students learned to work together and that every person's opinion mattered. Once we settled on a reason why Jenkins was founded, we began looking at who made the city of Jenkins. We first graphed the population from the founding year of 1912 through 2018. Students had their own personal graphs in their learning notebooks and their research notebooks. Through Ancestry Classroom, which is through Ancestry.com, We analyzed census data showing names and ages and countries of origin of the people who moved to Jenkins during population peaks. Students put together a list of countries and pinpointed them on a large classroom map and in their personal research folders. Once we discovered the countries of origin, we brainstormed reasons why people would want to move to Jenkins from all over the globe. The main reason we agreed on was for work. Jenkins was the center of the coal industry at the time. After looking at lists and maps, students chose a country of origin to research further. We wanted to know what cultural aspects the immigrants who moved here may have brought with them, and if we still saw some evidence of them today. Using Ancestry Classroom, students were able to look for a specific family name, ages, and their jobs and their countries of origin from where they moved to Jenkins and when. Our positive outcomes, although our end product of the project has been slightly delayed due to school closures, I can positively say that each problem of practice, all three problems that we identified in the beginning, were addressed through this project. First, student engagement. My kids were talking about this all the time. In the hallways, in the lunchroom, in the other classes, I had my co-teachers talking about or telling me that they couldn't get the kids to stop talking about Jenkins to focus on what they needed to do in their classroom. I would be greeted with, "Are we working on Jenkins today?" instead of "What are we doing?" They were excited to be working on Jenkins. That's what they wanted to focus on. They were working together in a way they never had before. They had deep conversations, sharing findings, and it replaced their competitiveness and their banter in the classroom. They learned to work together to share resources, that they all had the same end goal in mind. Parent and community involvement. As I mentioned before, many of our students are being raised by grandparents. They have a lot of stress in their life. It's understandable that they're not as involved as they are, but we were hoping to bring more involvement in with this project. The students were going home excited about this project, which led to more parents and grandparents asking questions, sending in resources, and offering to share their stories of growing up in Jenkins. And finally, their pride in self and community. This project allowed students to learn things about Jenkins they had never known before, and with every little detail, their face would light up with pride. I overheard students saying things like, "Jenkins once had 10,000 people living here. Where did all the people live? If there were 10,000 people, where were they?" People from Egypt wanted to move here. They were just excited to find out that Jenkins was a spot to be at. It was exciting to be here, and they wanted to figure out why is it not now, and what we can do to make it a place like that to begin with. Once learning the history of some students shifted their focus to brainstorm ideas on how to get Jenkins back to what it was once. So we had students who saw the past of Jenkins, compared it to their present, and we're brainstorming ideas on what needs to happen to get Jenkins back to its glory days. Overall, this project helped a class come together. These kids were competitive. They were often little arguments and banter through class. They learned to work together, learned how to use and share resources, and they instilled an attitude of wanting to do better for themselves and their community. It's not just all about them, it's about everybody around us. We have to work together to enhance our way of living. And it also showed me as an educator the importance of place-based learning and education, and just how much a connection to their community can make all the difference in a student's drive to learn.